We're good here, and here we go.
Recording in progress.
Okay, good. Ready to go?
Yep.
So, Central America and Mexico, the main roads were in pretty decent condition. This was unlike South America for sure, where many of the roads were still unpaved or paved with cobblestones. These were paved with asphalt, and it was fairly smooth riding, except when we went off to look at little remote areas or something, and then having a four-wheel drive vehicle was comforting. But it was a somewhat warm, sometimes hot, noisy ride with big snow tires on a Jeep heading north. We had a few interesting things. I'll never forget, we're on a two-lane, reasonably busy road heading north towards the Texas border, and there was a railroad crossing, and a train was coming by. So we were, fourth or fifth vehicle in line maybe, so, the gate was down, we were stopped, and we could see, as the train went by, we could see between the cars that there were vehicles beginning to line up on the other side, cars, vans, trucks, and a bus or two. And I could see, using our mirrors, that vehicles were lining up behind us. This was a long freight train. We were there 5 to 10 minutes, I would guess, while this thing slowly lumbered past. And then what began to happen sort of surprised us, because next thing I knew, people were starting to pull up on our left next to us, lining up in the lane going the other direction. And as I was looking between the cars as they went by, I could see the same thing was happening on the other side. So when the train went by and the gates came up, we had two rows of traffic heading right at each other. And we sort of looked at each other and said, now what? And I decided I wasn't going to do anything, because as soon as that train went by and the gates were up, engines roared to life, and people were driving all over the place. Some of them drove out into this was desert-like country. Some of them drove out into the side and around. Dust was boiling up. Vehicles were passing each other, and I just sat there waiting till this all happened and then went on, figuring this sort of like driving in Latin America. We hadn't very often been in much traffic except in big towns or cities, but the rules in some of these places were more like traffic rules, were more like suggestions than they were real rules. So that was just a warning to us to be careful. But we never really felt threatened in any way.
When we got to Mexico City, of course, there are two different archaeological sites around the city, and there is a museum that is an archaeological museum that is phenomenal, fantastic.
Yeah. One of the wonders of the world, I think.
Yeah, we really enjoyed Mexico City for that reason.
Mm-hmm. I didn't enjoy driving in Mexico City, and we took cabs when we could. But Mexico City, was built on what used to be a big lake. The Mayans had built a town in the middle of the lake, and it sort of created their own islands. They reclaimed some of the water. And there was just a little bit of that left. So a place with canals, and essentially what we call floating islands. They started out throwing things on mats filled with dirt that they floated in the water. This all eventually took root. So they created islands up there with these canal passages in between. So we spent a delightful Sunday there, I think, one time getting in a boat with a bunch of Mexicans who were out having a good time on Sunday for a boat ride through these canals in a very historically relevant part.
Okay, I'm going to reset here.